Aight. Today, let's talk about Mount Rushmore of every PlayStation generation. Pretty straightforward. The PlayStation 1 was a game changer when it launched in 1994. It ushered in a new era of 3D gaming, immersive storytelling, and boundary-pushing titles that defined an entire generation of gamers. While many classics graced the PS1, 4 games in particular stand out as the quintessential experiences that every PlayStation fan should play. 1. Crash Bandicoot. Naughty Dog's Crash Bandicoot was the quirky, vibrant, and challenging platformer that introduced us to the spirited marsupial hero. With its addictive gameplay, beautiful environments, and memorable characters, Crash Bandicoot became an instant hit and a defining mascot for the PlayStation brand. Final Fantasy VII. Square's Final Fantasy VII revolutionized the RPG genre with its cinematic storytelling, unforgettable characters, and a vast, immersive world that captivated gamers worldwide. From Cloud Strife's iconic introduction to the heartbreaking moments that still resonate today, Final Fantasy VII is a masterpiece that pushed the boundaries of video game narratives. Resident Evil 2. Capcom's Resident Evil 2 took survival horror to new heights with its tense atmosphere, clever puzzles, and terrifying encounters with the undead. Whether you played as Leon Kennedy or Claire Redfield, this game kept you on the edge of your seat from start to finish, cementing its place as a classic in the genre. Metal Gear Solid. Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Solid was a stealth masterclass that blended cinematic storytelling, innovative gameplay mechanics, and mind-bending twists that kept players guessing until the very end. From the iconic codec conversations to the unforgettable boss battles, Metal Gear Solid set a new standard for storytelling in video games. Next, PS2 era. The PlayStation 2 was a true juggernaut of a console, delivering some of the most groundbreaking and unforgettable gaming experiences of its era. First up, we have Persona 3, a game that redefined the role-playing genre with its unique blend of dungeon-crawling gameplay and social simulation elements. Players were tasked with navigating the challenges of high school life while also exploring the treacherous depths of Tartarus, a towering labyrinth filled with deadly shadows. Persona 3's captivating story, memorable characters, and stylish aesthetic made it a standout title that continues to resonate with fans to this day. Next, we have Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, a masterpiece of stealth and storytelling from the mind of Hideo Kojima. Set in the midst of the Cold War, players took control of the legendary Naked Snake as he ventured into the dense jungles of Russia on a covert mission. With its innovative gameplay mechanics, cinematic cutscenes, and unforgettable boss battles, Metal Gear Solid 3 raised the bar for what a stealth game could achieve, cementing its place as a true classic. The third game on our Mount Rushmore is Jak 3, the thrilling conclusion to Naughty Dog's beloved Jak and Daxter trilogy. This action-packed platformer took players on an epic adventure through a vast open world filled with diverse environments, challenging missions, and an array of creative weapons and vehicles. Jak 3's fluid gameplay, colorful visuals, and entertaining characters made it a standout title that perfectly capped off one of the PS2's most beloved franchises. Finally, we have God of War 2, the epic sequel that continued the brutal and visceral journey of the Ghost of Sparta, Kratos. Boasting jaw-dropping graphics, intense combat, and an unparalleled sense of scale, God of War 2 elevated the action-adventure genre to new heights. From battling massive mythological beasts to navigating treacherous puzzles, this game was a relentless thrill ride that showcased the true power of the PlayStation 2. Now, when it comes to the PlayStation 3, I have to say that console really delivered some incredible gaming experiences. While there were many standout titles, if I had to pick the Mount Rushmore of PS3 games, these 4 would definitely make the cut. First up, I can't overlook The Last of Us. This game just blew me away with its gripping narrative, incredible character development, and tense, survival-driven gameplay. Joel and Ellie's journey through that post-apocalyptic world was an emotional roller coaster that stuck with me long after the credits rolled. I still get chills thinking about some of the game's most impactful moments. Yeah, I won't consider this all-time GOAT, but still it's up there somewhere. Next, we have Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. I'm a huge fan of the Metal Gear series, and this entry was Hideo Kojima's grand opus. The stealth gameplay was as tight as ever, but it was the cinematic storytelling and the way it brought the entire saga full circle that really resonated with me. I remember being glued to my screen for hours, completely engrossed in the epic tale of Solid Snake. Then there's Demon's Souls, the game that kick-started the Soulsborne phenomenon. I'll admit, this one kicked my butt more times than I can count, but the sense of accomplishment I felt after conquering its brutal challenges was like nothing else. The haunting atmosphere, intricate level design, and punishing yet rewarding combat mechanics made Demon's Souls a truly unique and unforgettable experience. Finally, I have to give a shout out to Little Big Planet. This game just oozed charm and creativity from every pore. I loved the whimsical world, the endless possibilities for user-generated content, and the way it encouraged players to let their imaginations run wild. It was a refreshingly positive and uplifting experience that brought out the inner child in me. Of course, there were so many other excellent games on the PS3, but these four just hold a special place in my heart. Ah, the PS4 era. What a wild ride it was. Sony's latest console really knocked it out of the park with some groundbreaking games. If I had to carve out a Mount Rushmore for the best PS4 titles, these four would definitely make the cut. First up is Marvel's Spider-Man. As a lifelong Spidey fan, this game was an absolute dream come true for me. From web-slinging through the beautifully realized Manhattan to taking down iconic villains with Spidey's signature quips and combat moves, Insomniac Games nailed the wall crawler's essence to a T. I had an ear-to-ear grin plastered on my face for pretty much the entire playthrough. Next, we have God of War, which reinvented Kratos in spectacular fashion. I'll admit I was a bit skeptical about the new direction at first, but Santa Monica Studios' bold reimagining completely won me over. The father-son dynamic between Kratos and Atreus added incredible depth, while the glorious Norse mythology backdrop and visceral combat kept that signature God of War intensity intact. It was an absolute behemoth of a game that left me in awe. Then there's The Last of Us Part 2, a game that hit me right in the feels. Naughty Dog took some major narrative risks with this one, and while it was certainly divisive, I appreciated the bold storytelling choices. The characters felt so real, the performances were top-notch, and the gameplay was an intense white-knuckle ride from start to finish. It was an unforgettable experience that stuck with me long after the credits rolled. Also, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. This was the perfect send-off for Nathan Drake and his globe-trotting adventures. From the stunning set pieces to the well-paced narrative and tight gameplay, Uncharted 4 was a masterclass in blockbuster action-adventure gaming. It made me laugh, it made me cry, and it reminded me why I fell in love with the Uncharted series in the first place. Now, the PS5 is still pretty fresh out the gates, so its library is understandably a bit limited at the moment. That said, there are already some real gems that have made a strong case for themselves as potential all-time greats on the new Sony hardware. One game that immediately comes to mind is Final Fantasy XVI. As someone who's been playing Final Fantasy games since I was a kid, I have to say, this latest entry totally blew me away. The high fantasy world, the visceral real-time combat, the mind-bending story beats, it all coalesced into an absolute epic that reminded me why I fell in love with the series in the first place. 16 felt like a true next-gen realization of the Final Fantasy magic. Then there's Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac Games. After their stellar work on the first game, my expectations were sky-high for this sequel. And boy, did they deliver. Swinging through the stunningly detailed open world of Manhattan as both Peter Parker and Miles Morales was an absolute power trip, and the storytelling, with its engaging personal stakes intertwined with superheroic set pieces. Chef's kiss. Insomniac has seriously spoiled us Spider fans. I'd be remiss if I didn't also give a shout out to Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Look, I know the remake is still incomplete, but what's there so far is nothing short of breathtaking. The modernized reimagining of the iconic Midgar section alone was worth the price of admission for me. Those unforgettable characters, that sublime soundtrack, the spectacular graphics, it all converged into a loving homage that made me nostalgic for the original while appreciating the new perspectives and gameplay enhancements. Lastly, while not a typical big-budget blockbuster, I have to commend the sheer imagination and charm of Astro's Playroom. This whimsical little platformer came pre-installed on every PS5, and it low-key ended up being one of the most delightful games I've played in ages. The inventive use of the DualSense controller's haptic feedback and adaptive triggers really showcased the console's innovative features in ingenious ways. Respect where it's due. Now, I know the PS5 library is still relatively small compared to previous generations, But if these 4 games are any indication, we've got a lot of incredible experiences to look forward to on Sony's latest powerhouse. Finally, the PSP. The good old PSP. Sony's first real foray into handheld gaming didn't get quite as much love as it deserved, if you ask me. That little portable powerhouse had some truly outstanding titles that are criminally underrated. If I had to chisel out a PSP Mount Rushmore, these 4 games would be my picks. First up, we've got God of War, Chains of Olympus. As a huge God of War fan, I was stoked to see Kratos' bloody adventures make the jump to portable form, and Chains of Olympus totally delivered. The epic scale, jaw-dropping set pieces, and trademark ultraviolence made the transition remarkably well. And being able to wreak havoc on iconic Greek beasts on the go? It was a technical marvel for the PSP. There's also Metal Gear Solid, Peace Walker, a game that had no right being as insanely deep as it was on a handheld. I'm talking chapters upon chapters of quintessential Kojima storytelling insanity. The gameplay was equally as rich, introducing base-building mechanics that you could obsessively tinker with for hours. Peace Walker showcased just how much complexity could be packed into the PSP's tiny frame. For my third pick, I've got to go with the cult classic Jeanne d'Arc. This spacetical RPG blend caught me totally off guard with its unique narrative framing of the French heroine leading troops into turn-based battles. The medieval fantasy aesthetics meshed beautifully with the strategic gameplay. Damn underrated. Finally, let's pour one out for Daxter, the PSP's delightfully goofy, side-scrolling platformer spin-off to the Jak and Daxter series. Playing as the wisecracking Otzel offered such a fun change of pace from the open-world adventures. The writing was hilarious, the worlds were imaginative, and bouncing off enemies' heads never got old. Daxter captured that classic Naughty Dog magic in a tight portable package. So these were my Sony's Mount Rushmore. Yup, one for each console. Who's your all-time Mount Rushmore for Sony? Let me know in the comment section. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care and have a nice day.